The following is an exclusive presentation of WI Garden Media, the voice of Garden Talk Radio.
Coming up on the program today, we're going to discuss composting, what you should and should not be composting, as well as botanical gardens. Our guest is author Jennifer Jewell, and we'll answer your garden questions. The hour is full, so join us.
You are listening to the most informationally packed hour of garden-focused radio in the country and on the internet with your host, husband and wife team Joey and Holly Baird. This is the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
And welcome to another edition of the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. Happy that you've taken time out of your day to join us. I'm your host, Joey Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
This program is for you, about you, to help your garden grow better, to maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make your grass look greener, as well as preserving what you grow. Happy you're taking part in the program, whether you're listening to us on one of the 20 AM and FM frequencies broadcasting our program here in 2023 through our parent website, which is the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, underneath the Season 7 tab at the top of the page, where all past shows are located in podcast form, in-studio video replay, or podcast replay. Thank you so much for allowing us to take a little part of your day. You want to be part of the program? Certainly do such by giving us a call, toll-free, coast to coast, at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469. Send your question over. If we can't get to you, we will call you back, or just let us know where you're calling from. You can also do that via email at gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Well, composting, Holly, it is a process that you never can make enough of. However, there are things that you should and should not be composting, even on a small scale, on your in your backyard, patio, or porch. You can do that. There even is some indoor composting mechanisms, devices, but we're not going to get into that. We're going to cover more of the aspect of here's what you can and here's what you shouldn't compost.
Right. So we should talk about, I think, because there's a wide variety of items that you can compost, and we should talk about what you can't compost first, because you know it's important to know, I guess, what you can't more than what you can.
Right.
And you know there is a science to composting with browns and greens and nitrogen and the other one, carbon. And we have covered that before. You can certainly ask us about that.
A good ratio is just basically half greens and half browns.
Right.
There is a more detailed formula if you want to follow it. But basically, if you can do 50-50, you're going to have compost. And side note, composting can be done in a hot composting method or a cold composting method. Hot composting is when you have the proper ratio of brown, which is the dry goods, and the greens, which is the wet items, and mixing them together, creating aerobic bacteria and heat in order to break down the food scraps or the paper into compost or soil. The cold compost is you just throw it all in a pile and come back in about 3 or 4 years time frame, and or a year plus, and it's going to be broke down, but it's still going to be, there's still going to be active seeds in it. The hot composting allows the heat to deactivate, lack of a word, to deactivate the seed germination capabilities if done correctly. So, what do we not want to put in our compost? Well, the first one can be yes and no. Bones and meat. The reason why it is highly advised not to do such is for the purpose of it will attract animals. If you are in a rural area and your compost pile is in the back, way in the back, and you've got a mixture of chicken manure and scraps and whatever else, yeah, you can throw it in there. You're going to have rodents, you're going to have scavenging animals go in there and dig around, which can be a benefit because they're help stirring the pile up to get the bones and the meat that you got piled. But if you're doing that in an urban setting, you probably already got those animals in the neighborhood and you don't want to have them have a party in your backyard. And also, the way you compost based on the municipality, you do have to find out, can it be an open pile or does it need to be enclosed in some way?
Right. And then there's also, if you are doing a certain type of composting where maybe you are doing that fast composting with, I think it's got like a powder, something like that. You can do that with bones and meat because it's going to
break down
quickly.
Quicker.
And again, like Joey said, it depends on where you're doing this, because you are risking animals and things like that. So you can, it's
and in some instances, not just mice and rats and possums and raccoons. In some parts of the country, it could be black bear and grizzly coming in because they smell that in a pile. Now, most people can tolerate or deal with raccoons, mice, rats, but grizzlies are a whole nother story. And black bears, not really the neighbor you want to have in your backyard at any given time. So be aware of that aspect of animals coming into your yard. Another thing you don't want to go ahead.
That's just it, is that you want to be aware of that. Another one is
black bears and grizzly bears are pretty in pictures and on TV.
I don't think. Yeah.
That's right.
So charcoal ash is one, and I was kind of confused by that. And Joey, I explained why that is one.
Because of the mechanisms or the chemicals that are in it can affect the soil composition. So you want to be aware of that. If it's wood ash, that's different. This is charcoal or coal ash, isn't it? Yeah, that's what. But wood ash has good properties in a safe manner or amount.
Right, and then the next one is dog or cat waste / litter. So, like for example, our cat, we use these walnut shell litter, and you would think that's compostable, but it's not, because their waste could be hazardous.
It has bacteria in it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's a bacteria that is not safe and can be make a human very sick. So you don't want to do that, and that's why people are very cautious when they see neighborhood cats using their raised beds or their gardens as litter boxes because of that contamination factor. So that is also a thing you want to be aware of. Synthetic fertilizers.
Yeah, so this is just one of those things because you don't know what's in that fertilizer necessarily. You don't know how it's going to react once you put it in your compost.
Now, are we talking about the glyphosate or just any synthetic fertilizer?
So that would be, the glyphosate is next.
Okay.
So this is like any synthetic fertilizer, just to stay away.
I know, but we can buy synthetic fertilizers to apply to our tomatoes and our eggplants and our pumpkins.
Right. So
if you're not of an organic, if you're organic, then you don't have to be concerned with it. If you're just fertilizer, there is some aspects of concern here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you just want to keep that in mind. Don't add anything that has that synthetic fertilizer directly applied to it that maybe it hasn't had a chance to
break down in more of a element form. It's not like you're pouring cups of synthetic fertilizer in the pile and mixing it together to try to add nutrients to your soil. Because nutrients and the compost is already nutrient rich. Now we're going to get to the glyphosate or the herbicides.
Yeah, so say you are like, everything in my garden is, I didn't add any synthetics, but then your lawn is getting sprayed.
Weed and feed.
Yeah, with whether by you, whether you pay a company, what have you, and you're getting sprayed with the weed and feed or whatever it is, some sort of persistent herbicide. Then you put those grass clippings into your compost. Then the compost it absorbs that persistent herbicide. You could put it on your garden and you could kill your vegetables.
And we've talked to people whom this has happened to.
And it was like years of aging it.
Yeah, it takes a lot of mitigation in order to revert back to a safe soil levels in which that dissipates in the soil. So be careful of what you're putting in the compost. If you're weed and feeding, that's fine. That's your deal. Don't use those grass clippings and incorporate them as mulch or in the garden or as compost, turning it into compost, because it will be detrimental to your garden.
Yeah.
Now, things that we can add. Well, we're just going to touch on a few of them here until our break. Things we can add to the compost that is safe. Dog or cat or fish pellets. That's safe. This is before. This is is this food or is this? This would be a food because I guess fish don't have bedding material.
Right. So yeah, let's talk about some more maybe common.
Well, that's common
ones.
for a lot of people. Feathers,
Yeah,
horse
it could
manure,
be.
goat manure.
So a lot of the times when people think about compost, they think about what's in their kitchen.
Uh-huh.
Because I had this discussion with one of my friends who eats a lot of vegetables and he feels bad because he can't compost. And he was like, could I compost anything that comes out of my kitchen? And it's like, yes and no. So you want to, fruit, vegetable scraps, eggshells, coffee grounds, coffee filters, and then tea bags. You should try to remove the staple if they have a little staple in them, the tea bags. But
Right.
if they're like the non-stapley kind, then that's fine. Loose leaf tea, like if you make loose leaf tea, any sort of food scrap basically works. Paper products, things like that. I know people might not think about throwing, if they have a paper towel.
Right.
Maybe they want to put that in their compost. Obviously, depending on how you used it, what you used it on, you want to be mindful of that.
Some items from the bathroom.
Yeah, you can use a lot of things from the bathroom. Oh, and the one thing I did want to mention, if you have paper towel rolls, if you want to, if you're not going to use them for something else, you want to make sure you put those in there too as well.
So use face tissue, hair from your hairbrush, trimmings from your razor can go in there. Toilet paper rolls can go in there. This is from the bathroom. Old loofah, natural sponges, nail clippings. Cotton balls that has not been used with like a chemical, like rubbing alcohol. You wouldn't want to do that. If it's just wiping something off, that would be fine. Urine can be put in there. Now, obviously, that's up to your discretion on that. And dryer lint, from the laundry room, dryer lint, pencil shavings from the office, old clothing, old wool clothing could be thrown in there, not the synthetic stuff. So there's a lot of things in which you can add to your compost pile and a few things that you shouldn't. We've just touched on a very minute amount here, but it gives you a starting point. Walton's Incorporated, Holly, has everything you need except for the meat.
Yeah, absolutely. So Walton's, that we're brought to you today by Walton's. They care about where your food comes from. Canning, preserving your fruits and vegetables is great. But what about the meat? We are reaching wild animal harvest peak season here in Wisconsin. You can get everything you want to make sausage, jerky, any other meat product your way to your high standard. Do you like those good snack sticks or that delicious beef jerky? They can help you if you go to meatjuststicks.com. That's an informational site to help you make the best finished product. They have everything from meat grinders, mixers, sausage stuffers, spices, go from animal to edible with ease. Walton's everything but the meat. You can use code GROW50, GROW50 to save 10% off your orders of $50 or more, and that's at waltonsinc.com.
When we come back, it's all about botanical gardens. You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Have a garden question? Give Joey and Holly a call now or anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-SHOW. If you can't get through, leave a message and they will call you back. Call now 1-800-927-SHOW.
Grip 6 produces American-made products with sleek designs and quality materials. Based and manufactured in Utah, they have high-quality and durable products that last a lifetime. They're built beyond tough. Their wool socks come from Rocky Mountain source materials, are soft and comfortable, keep your feet warm and dry, and come with a lifetime guarantee. Even for the most sensitive toes, these socks are made for everyone. High-quality wool socks make a huge difference for happy feet. They fit in with all the many things you do from around the house to the outdoors and beyond. They are comfortable and long-lasting. These socks are great for gardening because they keep your feet so comfortable no matter the conditions outside. It's hard to overstate how amazing these feel to have warm, dry feet as you work in your garden. Designed and manufactured in-house for the best results and quality every time. When you purchase from Grip 6, you're supporting long life cycle products and American-made manufacturing. Check out their belts, wallets, and socks at grip6.com. Use coupon code RADIO15 to save 15% off your order at grip6.com. Pomona's Universal Pectin is a high-quality pectin that gels reliably with low amounts of any sweetener. If you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, You'll love Pomona's Universal Pectin. Now you can make healthy homemade jams and jellies sweetened to your taste. You can use sugar or honey to sweeten. Pomona's Universal Pectin keeps indefinitely when stored in an airtight container. Easy to use, versatile, and comes with directions and recipes in every box. Find out more and where to buy at PomonaPectin.com. Also available at natural food stores and online.
Jung Seed Company is a family-owned and operated gardening company since 1907 with the largest selection of seeds and plants online. Use coupon code 10TG23 to receive 10% off your order at jungseeds.com. Again, that coupon code is 10TG23. Wisconsin Greenhouse Company has custom-made greenhouses to suit your needs. Grow year-round. Strongest greenhouses that will last a lifetime. From agricultural to lounging to entertaining. For more information, go to wisconsingreenhousecompany.com.
Dig planting holes from a comfortable standing position. Step, twist, pull, and plant. Visit ProPlugger.com.
Happy Leaf LED grow lights are USA made in small batches for outstanding performance and long-run cost effectiveness. 5-year warranty and VIP customer service. Grow happy at happyleafled.com. Use coupon code JoeyHolly to get 10% off any order over $90 at happyleafled.com.
When a family of fruit flies accompanies the fresh fruits and vegetables from your garden, you need rescue fruit fly traps. Rescue fruit fly traps use a food-grade lure that fruit flies can't resist, and thanks to their no-tip design, you won't have to worry about spills on your kitchen counters. Get rid of fruit flies fast with Rescue fruit fly traps. Made in the USA by the makers of the popular Rescue fly and yellow jacket traps. Learn more at rescue.com. That's RESCUE.com.
The Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Dripworks, Rise Gardens, Grip 6, Bloomin' Easy, Fleet Farm, Walton's Incorporated, Blue Ribbon Organics, Tree Diaper. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Botanical Gardens, Holly. But first, Farm Defense.
Farm and garden in the ultimate comfort. Farmer's Defense has lightweight and durable sleeves made to protect you against the elements while farming. Farmer sleeves offer unparalleled protection of arms and skin for any farmer, gardener, or outdoor worker. Say goodbye to irritated skin and sunburns in the garden. Their sleeves offer cooling comfort protection against the elements outdoors. An alternative to thick clothing, Farmer's Defense is made of wicking material with UBF protection factor of 50 plus to protect you from allergens and scratches. To find all of their great products and more, visit farmersdefense.com.
Botanical Gardens, Holly. What are they? What are their appeal? And why should we visit one if we have one nearby?
Yeah, so the first botanical garden was established during the Middle Ages, and these gardens existed in Pisa, Bologna, Padua, and Leyden, so like in Italy. And there's a lot of them that still exist today, and a lot of the aromatic and medicinal herbs are still there at those original botanical gardens. And the first one was established in Philadelphia by somebody named John Bartram. So botanical gardens have been around for a long time. They started as like just public gardens and kind of research gardens, and then now they have turned into even more research and scientific purposes. But they're also something that are available, most of them, I think I would probably say almost all of them are available to the public. And that's the whole purpose of them, is so that you can go and learn and appreciate them as well. But it's kind of, I guess, like a gift to the community in a way.
A public, like a park.
Yeah. And a lot of them, they built that scientific academic connection in the 17th century. And then a lot of them were established with a revival of learning that occurred during the Renaissance time. So there's probably like a lull, and then the Renaissance time happened, and then there was another interest in them. And so they do have a documented collection of living plants. They do the scientific research. They promote conservation and education. So if you've never been to a botanical garden, when you go, the plants are labeled. So you'll be like, what's that? And then it's like, this is a coreopsis. And sometimes Like I went this summer out to the International Crane Foundation in Baraboo, Wisconsin, and it wasn't a botanical garden per se, but they had all of the plants labeled so that you could kind of learn. And this is becoming more and more common. I've noticed is sometimes you go to a place like a zoo or
public place, yeah.
Yeah, and they will have the plants labeled. And a lot of times they will be native plants. So that's not quite a botanical garden, but it's kind of botanical garden.
For those in the Milwaukee area who listen to us on our flagship station, Joy 1340 and 98.7 FM, how is a botanical garden different than the Milwaukee domes that we hear about in the news?
Milwaukee domes are a botanical
They
garden.
are. That is,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for people who are not aware, who are outside, the domes are, was it 3 or 4? Three unique environmental creations of indoor. It's a desert is one, rainforest type environment is the other, and I forget what the third one is because we've
It's a show dome.
Show dome, and in the desert dome you've got the cacti and all the things you would see like in a desert.
Look at you talking about the dome.
And then in the other one, it's a tropical where they have cocoa trees growing where they will harvest the pods that you would make chocolate from.
And then they have that stinky flower. Is it the stinky flower?
Yeah, I forget what it is, but it opens once every
year. 6 months?
Once every 7 or 8 years, and it smells like rotting human corpse. And people will stand in line for hours to see this and smell this. It's a big thing.
It is a big thing. Can I put it in my goth garden? So anyway, so the botanical gardens that Joey just mentioned, one that's a very unique one to our area. Then there's also, so if you're ever like, how do I find a botanical garden? You simply just type in botanical garden and put in your zip code. Now, I've visited a number of them in the state, and even I went to one in Iowa and other states as well, and Illinois, things like that. And you can usually find them near larger cities. And a lot of times they're free. Sometimes they do charge you a fee.
The one in Milwaukee is not one. It charges a fee for some of the upkeep and employment.
Right. And then there's the burner. I think that's how you say it, Botanical Gardens in Milwaukee as well. And then sometimes they have special events. Like they recently had the China Lights event, which is a nighttime thing where you see these beautiful light displays. So there's one in Madison, Wisconsin. That's the Old Brick Garden. That one is free. And then they also do a light display, not the China lights, but they do a light display as well in the fall. So it is something that
Titan Arum, ARUM, is the plant that smells like rotting human flesh.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you can find a lot of interesting things at the botanical gardens usually, and sometimes they do charge a small fee. Just to link this back to Wisconsin, I went to the one in Green Bay a couple times, and they do charge you, but it was worth it. They had just a lot. To me, it's worth it. I think that obviously free is better, but it's someplace to walk around. You are in nature. It's usually very close by to wherever you live, and you can learn something. It's relaxing. I don't know. I like them. So yeah, even I talked about this before, the Labyrinth Garden. It wasn't quite a botanical garden, but they did have all the plants labeled. So that was helpful. And I think it's a good point of education. And you can find something to learn and talk about, or just
don't touch these things.
Don't touch these things. You can appreciate the beauty. You can, I know people come from all over to go to certain botanical gardens. So it's just something that's helpful. And sometimes you'll find random things like sculptures are fun, or different architecture or design, little fun roads to walk on. At the one in Madison, at the Old Brick, there's a pagoda. I don't want to ruin the surprise for anybody. There's a pagoda there, so it's really cool. Like if you didn't expect it, you're like, whoa, that's neat. And so yeah.
For people who don't know what a pagoda is, isn't it a Chinese or is it it's Asian?
Asian. I think it's China. I don't know.
It's like it's what Indianapolis at the racetrack.
Yeah, because everybody's gonna know that.
There's people that are big. That's what that is. Okay, they had it back in the day, and then they've redone it multiple times.
Do they still have the pagoda?
It's called the pagoda. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's 419 feet tall.
Okay.
It was it looked very much like the traditional ones back in the 20s and 30s, and then after World War II and the track went in disarray, they redid everything, and it's it just looks like a little skyscraper now. It's nothing fantastic to look at. So botanical gardens, they can be indoors and out. And typically the ones that are indoors are more specifically catered to a certain climate environment for year round. And the ones outdoors are plants that are okay for the location that you're in. And you can see the transition from season to season in those outdoor locations much more than you can in the indoor. I mean, the one we talked about, the dome one, the tropical one, it's like you walked in, for those who've been in the South, it's like, August 15th every day.
And, like
it's
March,
hot.
Yeah.
It is humid. It hits you like somebody punched you in the face. If you've been in Southern Illinois or in the South when it's hot, humid summer, that's exactly what that feels like.
You had a good time at the Dome, didn't you?
Well, I guess it's been several years.
It's been like 3 years.
Well, that's several years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had fun.
And the desert was very hot and
It
dry,
was very hot and
just
dry.
like, identical. For people who are familiar with that, they're like, well, what's so fun about this? It's a dry heat, it's a
You experienced the dry heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know you liked the Dome so much. We'll have to go back soon.
Well, they for years, for those who are outside of the realm of the Wisconsin news, for years they have always talked about, we're going to take them down, they're going to fall down, it's the end, and it's a whole that's a whole nother.
Well, they
deal.
keep saying that about the stadium too now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so back.
People in Denver are just fascinated that we're talking about local type. For the show originates out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. For those who are trying to put together the pieces, and why are we talking about that specific? That's where the show originates from.
Right. And who knows? Maybe somebody will now be curious about the domes and come take a trip to humble little Milwaukee. So, yeah.
Do your research before you go. If you look for what's around, do your research before you go. And if you do have questions, give them a call. I see a lot of things on your website. What does it cost to get in? What is allowed in? Can I bring water in? Is it a lot of walking? Is it, I'm assuming, I'm handicap accessible as everything now.
Most are, yeah.
But it doesn't hurt to ask, because you'd much rather be prepared than to get in there and go, well, I didn't know this, or I wish I would have had that.
And there's also some days where they may only have free admission certain days of the week.
And certain days they only open for certain hours, or they may not be open at all.
There's that too. And also I know like you can become a member of most of these gardens for a yearly fee. And there's certain days that are like member only days. So you want to keep that in mind. So yeah, definitely do your research. Don't just be like, oh, well, I'm pretty sure they're open on this Tuesday, and then they're not.
They're closed on the fourth Tuesday of every month, and that was the day you were going to go.
Yeah, so you want to keep that in mind, that there are things like that. They're just fun overall. Sometimes they have specific tours, so you can often find out about that. If you are having problems finding a botanical garden near you, if you reach out to a local university, they might be able to let you know, because a lot of them are ran by universities. But typically, if you just type in botanical gardens and the zip code, you're going to find them.
Well, summer is over, Holly. Kids are in school. Nights are colder and getting colder. And the lawn still needs a little of your help that you have probably walked away and forgot about.
Yeah, just because it's fall, we don't want to forget about our yards or those Japanese beetles. They may be gone, but they're not far. Not only do they feast on your roses and berries this summer, they laid eggs on your turf so that they can start again next year. Take a stand with phylum's grubgon. Grubgon is a non-chemical Bt granule that specifically targets scarab pests and their larvae. Simply apply the granule with a spreader, irrigate it into the soil, and let the naturally occurring bacteria do its job.
And the best part about it, Grubgon is easy to use, and it's the only non-chemical choice that effectively controls the grubs. It is non-toxic to bees and other beneficial insects and pollinators. In fact, Grubgon has no label restrictions to be used around flowering plants, so you don't have to worry about toxifying those beneficial insects and destroying their hives or their living quarters. Remember, it's Grubgon from phyllumbioproducts.com or grubgon.com, the natural choice. When we come back, we're going to talk with author Jennifer Jewell. You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show.
Have a garden question? Give Joey and Holly a call now or anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-SHOW. If you can't get through, leave a message and they will call you back. Call now, 1-800-927-SHOW.
Need a new mattress? Choose Furlow over the other leading brands and save big, really big. Because hey, nobody ever slept better for paying thousands more for basically the same mattress. Plus, with Furlow mattress, you also get our exclusive lifetime comfort guarantee. Good for as long as you own your mattress. Comfort to comfort, dollars to dollars. Compare Furlow to the others, and it's obvious. You get more bed for your buck. Wake up. Sleep better. Furlow.
Blue Ribbon Organics, providing locally made organic compost and soil blends for gardeners, farms, landscaping, and more. To find our products nearest you, visit blueribbonorganics.com.
Goodbye, biting bugs and plant invaders. No More Bugs by Naturally Green Products is your answer. A product pioneered by the USDA in 14 years in business, No More Bugs has been a favorite by consumers across the country. More than a repellent, it is safe for you, your plants, pets, and home. Visit nomorebugs.net. Free shipping on orders over $50. Use code FREESHIP4ME.
Rootmaker starts your plants off right and keeps them going through harvest. From their seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots to their large variety of grow bags, 1 to 60 gallons. Their products will provide you the harvest you've never seen before. Visit rootmaker.com and use coupon code RADIO23 to save 15% off your order at rootmaker.com.
Garden like a pro in 3 easy steps and receive customized fertilizer recommendations for your garden or lawn. Soil Savvy helps you determine what nutrients your plants need to thrive. Never again over-apply nutrients they don't need. A patented process that makes you a smart gardener. To get your soil test kit, go to mysoilsavvy.com.
Worried about watering too much or too little? Tree Diaper technology is the best way to stabilize your soil moisture in your garden, trees, or houseplants. Use coupon code GARDEN15 to save 15% off at treediaper.com. The Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Chapin Manufacturing Incorporated, Aqua-Mart, Soil Savvy, Wind River Chimes, Wisconsin Greenhouse Company, Pro Plugger, Dripping Springs Oyas, Phylum Bioproducts. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Moments away, author Jennifer Jewell will be with us. But first, Rise Gardens.
Rise Gardens is a revolutionary hydroponic gardening system for your home. Instead of food traveling hundreds or even over 1,000 miles before it hits your plate, harvest the veggies, herbs, and greens you need for dinner tonight in the comfort of your home. No green thumb required knowledge. Gardening made easy with the Rise Gardens app. Step-by-step guidance from seed to harvest. A complete garden on a shelf and comes with everything you need to grow healthy and the freshest food for you and your loved ones. Fully customize your garden to your needs and preferences. For more information and get your Rise Gardens, visit risegardens.com.
Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week.
Jennifer Jewell is a radio show host, gardener, author, writer, speaker, and creator of Cultivating Place. Her most recent book is What We Sow on. It's on the personal, ecological, and cultural significance of seeds. It came out last month. Welcome to the program, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Joey and Holly. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your day, not only to educate Holly and myself, but all of our listeners.
So what was your garden and composting inspiration? Was this something that you've done like your whole life, or something you learned about, later on in life? What was your inspiration? Where did it come from?
Well, I grew up very luckily and fortunately the second daughter of 3 daughters of a professional gardening mother. And she was a floral designer, a garden designer, and a home vegetable gardener, and a wildlife biologist father. So between them, we really covered all the ecosystems of native plants, their flora and their fauna in the ecosystems around us. And I grew up at 8,000 feet in Colorado on the Front Range of the Rocky Mountains. And it was some pretty rugged gardening at that climate and zone. And but my parents both loved being outside and loved being familiar and knowledgeable about all the lives around them. And I think their model really raised us all to enjoy gardening and sort of the natural history of our places. And that has just held for me throughout my life, but became maybe really important when I had my own children and wanted to make sure they were offered that same sense of joy and comfort with the land and lives around them, no matter where they were.
Well, you helped co-produce a natural history exhibit at the Gateway Science Museum and other museums. Please share with us more about some of these exhibits and why people would find them interesting to visit.
Yeah. I started my public radio program and podcast first as a local program in 2007. And then in 2016, it grew up into the nationally syndicated podcast Cultivating Place. At the same time that I was producing my local program, I was the native plant garden curator at Gateway Science Museum, which is a natural history museum on the campus of California State University, Chico. And as the native plant garden curator, it became clear to me that there were ways to engage visitors to the museum with the garden and the lives and the cycles of the native plant garden in the museum itself as well. And so together with my partner, plantsman John Whittlesey, we have now produced 4 different exhibits. The first one was on pollinators of Northern California and the Western states generally. The second one was on mushrooms of Northern California and the Western states generally. The third was on the seed distribution patterns and forms and mechanisms of native plants of California. And of course, those native plants include genera and families that are familiar with people wherever they live. And then the final one is actually up right now at Gateway Science Museum, and it's called Bombus. And it is about the natural history of bumblebees and why they are such important pollinators in their ecosystems. And I think one of the reasons that people would enjoy visiting the exhibits wherever they might be up right now is that they add this really dynamic visual and in-depth view into just one cross section of what we're offered when we're out in the garden or on the trail, wherever we are. And they kind of bring details to life that makes us more observant and appreciative, I think, when we're in the garden or on the trail in real life.
Fantastic. Sounds very interesting. So your newest book is called What We Sow. It's on the personal, ecological, and cultural significance of seeds. Can you please tell us more about it? Maybe what might be an interesting part of it, or a synopsis that would help pique our listeners' interest to pick up a copy.
Yeah. I think as gardeners or people who just enjoy nature in all of its forms, we are often enjoying flowers, we're enjoying produce, we're enjoying the effect of a total landscape. And we sometimes forget the very essential smallest units that those experiences are based on. And I think it's analogous in some way to the work of Dr. Doug Tallamy and his getting us as gardeners to focus on the importance of native plants, but the importance of them because they feed are insects and they're caterpillars. And those insects and caterpillars are what the rest of the food chain is reliant on in order to succeed and prosper. And when we hit the COVID-19 shutdown, I was really faced with this question, as we all were, of, what is essential and what do we need to have in our lives so that they are happy and healthy and productive. And as a gardener, one answer to that question was seed. And when I started to do more research into where our seed grows and how it is grown and how it gets to us wherever we are, and this might be seed for food, it might be seed for flowers, it might be seed for the restoration of the native ecosystems of our areas. These are all areas where we're seeing a lot of seed needed and purchased and shipped and then sown. And I realized, especially during the pandemic, when it seemed like we were having some bottlenecks, if not outright scarcity, in our seed supply, that I, as a gardener, needed to know a lot more about how seed is stewarded in our world. And so I kind of took this several year journey, which I distilled down into 1 year in the book, into researching all of these different facets of how seed shows up in our lives and why it is really critically important to me to be paying more attention and care about all of these pathways for seed in our lives.
Well, and 100 years ago, we had so many more varieties than what we have now. Through the time and progression of whatever mistakes we as humans have made, we've lost so much of that. So if we fast forward another 50 or 60 years, how many of the things do we have now that we won't have then, that as stewards we could save and continue those traits that otherwise would be lost?
Exactly. And so I think, as we see ourselves, especially I think this was highlighted, Joey and Holly, by the pandemic, as we see how distant we've become as a society from these aspects of life that really feed us, whether it's our gardens or the seed. I think it's really more important than ever that we are more knowledgeable and intimately engaged with these cycles so that we can be those stewards, right? And we can say, yes, I grew this, I saved the seed, I shared it with my neighbors, and I sowed it again this year. But we can also support the small, independent, organic growers who are stewarding really well for us. And we can vote with our dollars and our actual ballots for the ways in which we want land and ecosystems and plant life generally cared for in our world. During the research for the book, I kept coming up against such challenging realities. For instance, that 60% of our seed in the world is owned outright by 4 large international petrochemical pharmaceutical corporations. And it kind of makes you wonder, is that really what we want? This legacy of plants and abundance and generosity and food and ecosystem, is that where we want it held? And for me, the answer is no, that isn't where I want it held. I want it to be held in the commons and cared for communally. Yeah.
Well, and those big corporations, they are only looking at, hey, that doesn't sell, get rid of it. That does sell, make more of that. And that's how we can lose some of these very unique and specific and valuable seeds and plants in which we have now.
Exactly. And despite all of the very depressing statistics and research that I report on in the book, like those corporations and that 60% and the number of GMOs and the amount of insecticide and pesticide that are coating our seeds in the larger industrial fields of seeds, I also kept coming across the multitude and diversity of humans who are out there really working hard to steward seed, care for it, and ensure the biodiversity continues forward as the gift that was given to us by the past and that we are in charge of making sure moves into the future.
Well, many people don't know where to start when composting. What would you recommend for the beginner composter? What are some good starting points?
Well, the first one, right? I mean, this is just like the seed cycle, right? Is just do it. Just take your food scraps, take your garden biomass waste, your prunings from your, perennials that you might be cutting back a little bit right now, and just chop it up and get it into a pile. Now, if you want to get more complicated, get yourself a little bin and put in everything. Once you start to feel comfortable with that and turning it on a sort of regular basis, I mean, it will compost no matter what, because that is what the carbon cycle does for us. But if you turn it and or make sure that it is kept uniformly moist over time, it will break down into really rich compost so much faster. And once you get into the habit of putting your vegetable food waste, your eggshells, your coffee grinds out into a compost pile or bin, then you can start thinking about, okay, is it too wet? Does it smell sort of badly? And starting to get more familiar with layering the green nitrogen elements, such as fresh grass or your fresh food waste from the kitchen, with the dry brown carbon waste, and layering them more uniformly so that you can mix the carbon and the nitrogen, and it will make even better compost even faster.
Fantastic. That's really great information. So you interview a lot of people, as do we. What's one interview you will never forget, or one guest you had that you will never forget, and why was it so significant?
Wow, this was such a tough question. This is such a good question, but a tough one, because like it's sort of like picking our favorite babies, right? But I would say that one of the most gratifying and memorable interviews I have had, both in person and on the Cultivating Place program and podcast, was my interview with Jamaica Kincaid. Jamaica Kincaid is an African-American woman who many readers, or listeners rather, will be familiar with. They may have read some of her work. Her most important garden variety work was called My Garden Book, that was published in 1995 and was the compilation of a series of essays she published in the New Yorker magazine in the 1990s. And she really highlighted, maybe more than anyone else had done to that time, the importance of seeing world history in the plants that we chose for our gardens. That could be the vegetable seed we sow, it could be the flowers we grow, it could be the trees that are present in our landscape, but that our history as humans can be found in the history of those plants and how they have moved around the world, and how they have been valued and used by different cultures. She was an interview. This was a very interesting experience. She was an interview I was supposed to hold in person with a live audience on March, I think it was the 15th in 2020.
And we all know what happened that day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like driving into New York City. I was headed to the New York Botanical Garden. I was getting all these phone calls. We're going to do it. We're not going to do it. We're going to be in person. We're going to just have you in Jamaica in person, no audience. And it was hectic and terrifying and by the seat of my pants. And it was one of the most beautiful conversations of just me and Jamaica Kincaid sitting on the ledge of a fountain in the conservatory at the New York Botanical Garden, and really engaging around this idea of how ancient and sacred and powerful the act of gardening is, no matter who you are or where you come from. And that's just really seared on my heart, that conversation with her.
Well, Jennifer, we greatly appreciate the time you've offered Holly, myself, and all of our listeners. How can our listeners find you and get your book?
Oh, I so appreciate that. And thank you for having me. Definitely head over to my website, cultivatingplace.com. There's a drop down tab for the podcast. You can hear past episodes and you can subscribe. You can order a book that I would send off to you signed. But you can also find the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It's called Cultivating Place, and you can find the book wherever you get your books. And I definitely recommend independent bookstores. You should be supporting them. And if you, no matter where you buy a book of mine, if you would like a signed book plate, feel free to drop me an email, cultivatingplace@gmail.com, and I will send you a signed book plate in the mail happily.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for your time and the knowledge you've shared with us.
Oh, thank you guys, and keep doing your great growing work. I'm so proud to have been on your program.
Thank you very much. And when we come back, it's Your Garden Questions, Our Garden Answers. You're tuned into the Gardening with Joe and Holly radio show.
Have a garden question? Give Joey and Holly a call now or anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-SHOW. If you can't get through, leave a message and they will call you back. Call now 1-800-927-SHOW.
Head into Fleet Farm where you'll find everything you need. From tires to tree stands, drills to dog food, toys to tools, they've got it all. You can save even more at Fleet Farm when you join the Fleet Rewards loyalty program. You get exclusive offers and it's free to sign up. Get everything you need at a low fleet price. Shop in store or online today at Fleet Farm. Pomona's Universal Pectin is a high-quality pectin that gels reliably with low amounts of any sweetener. If you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, you'll love Pomona's Universal Pectin. Now you can make healthy homemade jams and jellies sweetened to your taste. You can use sugar or honey to sweeten. Pomona's Universal Pectin keeps indefinitely when stored in an airtight container. Easy to use, versatile, and comes with directions and recipes in every box. Find out more and where to buy at PomonaPectin.com. Also available at natural food stores and online.
Tree Hugger sprinklers are the ultimate watering device for either your newly planted or established trees and shrubs. Our sprinklers open and close around the trunk of your tree and provide 360 degrees of watering. With our adjustable valve, you can direct the water to your tree's targeted saturation zone. They come in 3 sizes, 7, 11, and 15 inches. You can purchase a Tree Hugger sprinkler at your local garden center, feed store, or hardware store. Go to treehuggersprinklers.com to find a retailer close to you. Or you can buy it directly from Amazon or treehuggersprinklers.com. If you're an independent nursery, garden center, hardware store, or feed store, you will want to stock this product. Contact the good people at Tree Hugger Sprinklers and they will get you set up. Your tree's best friend. treehuggersprinklers.com. The Joe and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Happy Leaf LED, Root Maker, Jung Seeds, Tree Hugger Sprinklers, Verlo Mattresses, Farmer's Defense, Pomona Universal Pectin, Natural Green Products, Mantis Tillers. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joe and Holly radio show. Thank you for being with us today and allowing us to be part of your world for just a little bit of your day. Time for garden questions and answers. If you got a question, we can get you an answer. Send it on over to gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Or give us a call toll free coast to coast at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469. If you can't get through, leave a message and we will call you back. This question is sponsored by Fleet Farm and fleetfarm.com.
I was gifted an overgrown zucchini. It's quite large and was told it might be woody tasting. What are some ways that I can, cook with it, make something with it that would still be delicious?
The Louisville Slugger. That's a baseball reference there. What we've done in the past with this is, one, you can actually leave it on a shelf in an indirect sunlight in a cool area, and we have kept it all the way through March. And then at that point, you cut it open. It's on a dry order, so you're going to have to really coat it with butter. But anyway, what you can do is you can cut it open and pull the seeds out because the seeds are going to be very large. I wouldn't save the seeds because you don't know if they've been crossed or not. Cut in thinner pieces. And don't be afraid to use some butter and some herbs and spices and saute it in a pan with butter or oil, and it's quite good. But you want to cut it thin If you leave it in large cubes, it's going to take a long time to cook, and it's going to get mushy on the outside and still hard on the inside. So that's what I would do. Holly, what do you got? You make bread.
Yeah, I would make zucchini bread with it. I would kind of pulverize it in my food processor and freeze it, and then just kind of add a little bit, like a little chunk, to soups or even just chili during the winter. Yeah, those would be my two options.
Okay, there you go. Can I plant sprouting garlic? I've had some since I harvested it, and it's starting to sprout. Can I still plant it? The answer is yes.
Yeah, you can still plant it.
Just whenever you plant it, make sure you get the sprouting part below soil grade. Typically, we plant ours about 2.5, 3 inches deep, and we just planted some at our other property a couple of weeks ago, and it was sprouting, and I just made sure it was below soil grade. So whenever it would expose above soil grade, if you just put it above soil grade, it's going to burn because of the sunlight, because it's been in dark. So just make sure it's below soil grade and just do it like normal garlic. You'll be fine. Which fall vegetable or cold hardy? Brassicas, such as kale, collards, cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, might be. Which fall vegetables are cold hardy? I should read the question more clearly. Brassicas, kale, collards, cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage. They can withstand some winters, light, mild winters. Not too many of these vegetables are going to withstand a harsh winter or hard freeze and be to the point of edible. They can overwinter, and they'll regrow next year and produce seeds because they're biennials. Also, kale, we talked about that. Leeks, Brussels sprouts are all cold hardy vegetables that can withstand fairly decent cold. Swiss chard is another one, but we found with Swiss chard, whenever it freezes hard, that Swiss chard, that's pretty much done. So with these, a low tunnel may be an option or requirement based on your geographical area. The key to doing that is not build a low tunnel and it's November 1st, let's plant stuff. The key to it is we've got it established. We're going to put a low tunnel over top of it to protect it, to keep it alive, not to get it to grow more, but to keep it live. And in certain situations, such as kale or collards or Swiss chard, it may produce slowly additional growth, but you're not going to go November 1st, it's 4 degrees outside, we're going to build a low tunnel, we'll warm the soil, and we're going to grow greens all winter long. That's not going to happen.
No. Unless maybe, I don't know, if you were in kind of a good mid area of the states, you could try until it maybe does get too cold.
Well, and then there is a low tunnel. What is it called? You build a low tunnel over your plants that are established, and then you can build a second tunnel, a higher tunnel over that, and it's basically 2 layers of protection, and that moves your growing zone, if I remember right, like 2.5 zones south.
Yeah.
So you've got a low tunnel, and then basically you've got a greenhouse over top of that low tunnel. So now, let's say you're in Minnesota in zone 4. Now, technically, based on the way you've protected your plants, you are in growing zone 6B, which is very south compared to where zone 4 is. So it's not that you're going to grow tropics or cucumbers or tomatoes, but you can sustain a lot of the colder hardy plants. And when you do that 2-layer protection thing and you bump it up that 2.5 growing zones, there is an opportunity in which you could potentially grow lettuces, spinach, radishes. However, we have to also take in consideration the day lengths and how short they are. In the springtime and the fall, there is a substantial, still a good amount of daylight, even though the days are getting shorter. It's when we fall into that daylight savings, for those who do participate in that or choose to participate in that, the daylight savings, that's when you really lose a large percentage of your daylight time for these plants to grow. So, with that being said, we are out of time, and we thank you for yours. Miss any portion of the program today or would like to revisit, you can certainly do that by going to your favorite search engine and typing in the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show, or sending us an email to gardentalkradio@gmail.com, and we will send you a link to the program. Tune in next week to the program. We're getting close to wrapping up the season. 2 more shows left. We'll be talking about garden myths that you may be doing that you shouldn't be doing and wasting your time on, as well as the world of homemade breads. Our guest is garden farmer, no-till expert Jesse Frost will be with us and will answer your garden questions. So until next week, for
Holly Baird,
I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.